Hello, everybody. Welcome to Irongeek number 194. Remember, it's likely your own damn fault. How's everyone doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. Quick shout out to my brother Rich, who's watching the cast tonight. That's pretty neat.
Hello, Rich.
I'm doing okay, just kind of same as usual, just keep on keeping on kind of stuff.
Right? That's pretty neat.
Hello, Rich. All right, that was me on the repeat.
Oh, Rich
I
got
just want to make sure the stream is going right. And it appears to be just fine.
Yep. So we are live and looking at you, and nobody's talking. Nice dead air. Good way to lure in an audience, not talking. All right, I guess I'll talk. All right, guys. So we got a good cast for you this week. Starting off by bringing back an old section we used to have in our cast called Ransomware and Breaches. I'm going to start off the cast with that and go through in the past week or two what's been going on in the world of ransomware, who's got hit, and what gangs are behind it. Are the show notes up on the stream yet?
I have it up there now.
Excellent. All right.
Just make sure all your tabs with midget foot porn in it are hidden.
I closed all the midget porn. I had to get rid of that right away. All right. So first we've got some an organization. They're a nonprofit called K-12. They paid the ransomware following a breach. So K through 12 for the first time recently turned a profit due to the COVID environment, where a lot of people were going to download lesson plans from them, and they were making some ad revenue and doing well for themselves for the first time in a while. And they then got hit with ransomware. They're also going to be going changing their name to Stride Inc. later this month, which is unrelated. So what happened was they had an employee who likely opened an email from an attacker, got their machine infected, and they moved laterally throughout the network. The network then pretty much is now infected. So all their stuff, they didn't have good backups. They decided to pay. It happens, especially in smaller organizations, nonprofits. They don't have the backup infrastructure in place. They get hit, they pay. It's how it goes. In fact, 1 out of every 3 ransomware attacks now, worldwide they pay, which is why it's so profitable for these guys to just keep going and making their money. Another person who paid, Baltimore County did not pay, but they had to close all their computers because of a ransomware attack on their computer systems. This is another district that has gone to remote learning. They got hit with ransomware. Classes have been canceled since last Wednesday, and their website and their remote learning facilities, everything is just not working. Their email, basically everything you need to keep a virtual school up and running is not working because of the ransomware. They issued their students Chromebooks now rather than Windows books because it's less likely that a Chromebook will get infected with ransomware. Could still happen.
Now, what a student would have on a laptop, yeah, it sucks if the homework goes, but don't they have base images just to nuke and rebuild it?
I'm sure they do, but they made the choice, like, hey, we can go back and restore these Windows laptops and put them back on the domain and put the VPN software on there and have the kids remote back to the network. Or we can just give them Chromebooks and let them log into a Google account, and they can still access most of the remote learning stuff that we've got. So why, the Chromebooks just make a little bit more sense for that school district, I think. Okay. I mean, think about the logistics of having to send back all the Windows laptops and have them re-imaged and.
Yeah, and there's the soft cost of not even sending them back, but even if they were everyone's present, of all the time it would take just to do the flashing, because that's at least 10% are either going to get damaged or cryptoed or something that they have to get reflashed.
Exactly,
that's a lot of time.
How much are Chromebooks? A halfway decent Chromebook running.
You can get one for like $350. Decent one, AMD based one for $350. I had actually spec'd out one for my sister. She was going to use it for work, but then it turned out the remote software they were using, despite saying they had a Chrome app for it, the app would only work on actual Chrome, not on a Chromebook. So She ended up going back to Windows. Yeah. And next we have Advantech. They are a chip maker. They got ransomed for 750 Bitcoin, which is about $14 million if they want to get their files back. They claim they also uploaded about three gigs of their data to a leak site. And that's about 2% of the data they claim they have on this company. So if you're unfamiliar with this, what a lot of the ransomware groups are doing now is they are not just encrypting your files and trying to get you to pay them for a decryptor, but they're also taking your data, they're exfiltrating it, they're putting it on a site, and they're giving access to your files to anybody who wants access to it. Some groups anyway. Other groups are like, hey, we're going to put up an auction site. We're going to put up some samples of your data, and then people are going to bid on it, and whoever bids the highest is going to get your data. Either way, your data goes out there, and you don't want it out there. So it's not good. Yeah, the article pretty much finishes up talking about a report from Kaspersky talking about how ransomware is getting worse, and then it goes on to different things you can do to defend your organization from ransomware. It talks about an incident response or crisis management plan and all that fun stuff that you should already know about if you are doing this for a living. UVM Health Network, they got hit last month, I believe. They're still picking up the pieces. They are the University of Vermont Health Network. There are 6 hospitals, home health, and hospice systems. They've got more than 1,000 doctors, 2,000 nurses. They've got other clinicians in Vermont and even in northern New York. They were hit October 25th, and it has led to widespread delays in patient appointments, including chemo appointments, as well as mammograms and biopsies. If you watch our cast, you also know that in Germany, earlier this year was the first case of an actual death at a hospital due to ransomware, which was a ambulance was en route to a hospital with a woman who just had a heart attack. And right before they got there, the hospital redirected the ambulance, telling them they had to go to another hospital 45 minutes away because they were closed due to a ransomware attack. And in the ambulance, that woman died. Now, if this were the U.S., that would be a huge major lawsuit, I think. But Germany, it's still a big thing, but it's not quite as big as it probably would have been if it happened here. So we keep going through this, and they talk about how they're restoring some of their systems. They've got backups, but how it's taking them a while to restore from their backups. To be expected. If you have good backups, you should be able to restore from them in a reasonable amount of time. Of course, you should also have separate copies of your data in multiple places. You should have like an on-site copy. You should have a copy off-site. You should have like on cold storage if possible. 3-2-1 rule, 3-2-2 rule, any of those, But it shows how paralyzing cyber attacks can be for a big organization, even a hospital.
Yep.
They're hit, and now they're screwed, man. Even people who want to go get chemo can't go chemo. That's messed up.
Yeah, apparently cyber attacks are causing deaths now. Surely there's been some inconveniences caused. I heard put it this way, very indirect ones before this, but I guess this is one documented one.
Exactly. It's insane. I mean, a lot of these groups actually banded together, and they put out a public statement saying they were not going to be attacking hospitals. They seem to be doing it anyway. Like they said one thing and did another, which, I mean, they are criminals, so I guess can't really take them for their word. But is there no honor among cyber thieves?
No, not really. But if you can get some people sorry for you, you can collect a whole lot of money on like GoFundMe or something. Yeah.
Next, we have Alabama. One of their largest public school systems is closed because of what officials are calling a computer cyber attack. They closed early Monday, and they haven't reopened because of what they're describing as an apparent ransomware attack. Teachers who can't use computers are making paper worksheets and lesson plans for the system's more than 22,000 students, and officials are investigating the attack. Officials say they will release plans next week as far as what they're going to be doing, but nothing else is there. That's just another, It's affecting kids trying to go to school, remotely. Can't go to school. Your computers are down. Pennsylvania, this is in the trend of attacking county governments and local state governments. A lot of the ransomware groups are going after them because a lot of them also don't have really good cybersecurity. But on top of that, ironically, you'd think a state government, a county government would not pay the ransom. Apparently, some of them do. Delaware County, Pennsylvania, paid $500,000 to get their systems restored from ransomware. So they paid for the decryptor, and then they ran the decryptor on their computers and got their data back. And it's a lot of money. Well, for them, it's probably not that much money. And when you put into the context that just getting your data back is only a small part of the recovery, because now you also have to audit all your systems and figure out how they got in the first place. You got to hire an outside firm to come in and do like an investigation, what's going on, how that happened. And it's a lot of money to recover from ransomware, and you might have to put in like new backup systems and all sorts of shit. So it's not just the cost of getting your data back; it's the cost of the entire fix. So this was the Doppelpaymer group. They're behind a lot of stuff lately. They also share a large portion of code in their ransomware with BitPaymer, which is how they kind of got the name Doppelpaymer. They are also known for stealing unencrypted files during their attacks. It doesn't say here if they did that to Delaware County or not. And of course, they are using Mimikatz to harvest credentials once they get into a box so they can move laterally throughout the network. That is a very common attacker thing to do. Use Kiwi or Mimikatz, or even just attach a debugger to LSASS and dump the file and then open it up elsewhere, So they pop the domain controller as well, which is always good when your DC gets popped. Moving forward, we've got more to cover. Truck routing provider named Rand McNally was hit by a cyber attack. These are the guys who give the instructions to the truckers going across the road, telling them what roads they can and can't take so they don't accidentally wander onto, like a highway where it's too low. And get the, like that kind of shit, right? So they also have a cloud-based telematics platform and distributed connectivity vehicle technology. Their internal systems were hit by a ransomware attack. They decided to make a Facebook post about it to let everybody know, which is an interesting way to announce that. They are working diligently to restore the functionality of their systems. They appreciate their patience of their customers and apologize for the inconvenience. Typical boilerplate, we got hit with ransomware type stuff. They are not providing a recovery timeline or an estimation of how long it's going to take to restore their network functionality. Their main website and the fleet are down. They have limited functionality right now. They are displaying disruption notices saying they are upgrading their systems. That's a good way to let your customers know you are incompetent. We're upgrading our systems. We were not hit with ransomware, despite announcing that we were hit with ransomware. Their platform is down, and they're using landline, or is a shared statement with landline rather. Their platform's down, and they're using paper-based logging until their systems are restored. Let's go back to paper, pen and paper. Have the truckers call us. We'll tell them where to go. All right. So another ransomware attack has hit a fertility patient network. So by fertility network, this is a fertility center. Like if you want to have a baby and you're having some trouble down there, you go and they test your sperm, and and they also help women, and they take the eggs, and you know what a fertility center is, right? So this is one that's comprised of 55 locations across 10 states. They've got about 80 doctors working for them, and they've got a whole bunch of fertility practices under their banner. Systems have been down over a week. They said they experienced an IT security event that involved the inaccessibility of certain computer systems on their network as the result of a malware infection. In other words, they got hit with ransomware. They took down the impacted servers, the workstations, after discovering the attack, and they are restoring them with help of a third-party computer forensics specialist. I hope that computer forensics specialist knows how to decrypt ransomware without a decryptor. See if they can figure that out. Protected health information stolen in the attack. The forensics investigation has concluded and confirmed that the unauthorized actor acquired a limited number of files during their periodic unauthorized access, which occurred between August 12th and September 14th. That's a large breach window right there. Following a review of all files accessed during the attack, it was concluded that files extracted by the ransomware group contained various types of information, including names, addresses, dates of birth, MPI numbers, and social security numbers. Fun stuff. All right. We also have Ryuk still going up against healthcare industry stuff. It's just the way it is. And Aspen Point data breach is affecting 295 patients. They are a healthcare provider, and they notified their patients that they were hit by ransomware in September. And the attackers managed to also steal protected health information and protected personally identifiable information. All the fun stuff. Is somebody having like a tea party? What's going on there?
Oh, sorry. I have this survival shovel that has all these thin parts, and you can make it into an axe, and you can make it to a spear point or a knife or a screwdriver. And I'm just adjusting things in the bag.
Oh, okay. I was imagining you with like a China set.
I'm handling my shaft and thinking of you.
Wow. That doesn't make me feel better. All right. Patients warned of identity fraud risks. So anytime that the attacker gets your social security number and a bunch of your personal information, there is, of course, the risk for identity fraud. They, of course, are probably going to provide free credit report monitoring. Yep, I always do that. And $100,000 insurance reimbursement policy for fully managed identity theft recovery services. Fancy. So this is 295,000 patients all affected in this one breach right here. It is essentially there's also not really giving much of a comment to people asking about what happened, but that's what we know so far. And with that, we're going to end our breach section and ransomware, and we're going to move on to this general infosec stuff. Now, there's this really cool zero-click proximity exploit for iOS stuff, right? So essentially, if you are in Wi-Fi range of an iPhone and you've got like a Raspberry Pi and an antenna, off-the-shelf antenna with maybe an Atheros chipset, right? You can make all the phones within Wi-Fi range of you that are running iOS that haven't gotten the very latest patch reboot over and over again. It's a kernel exploit, and it has to do with the wireless mesh networking stuff that's built into the iPhone. It's essentially a buffer overflow in the AWDL, which is Apple's proprietary mesh networking protocol. It makes things like AirDrop work. It resides in the kernel, and as such, you essentially this buffer overflow, once it starts overwriting memory in the kernel, causes the phone to reboot. Just because this attack can only make your phone reboot doesn't mean that it's all it could do if somebody took the time to exploit it and fudge around with it properly, because it's a buffer overflow. So you're now overwriting memory in the kernel space on a phone, and you can run whatever the hell code you want, right? But iOS is, of course, very proprietary, so not a lot of people know how stuff in the kernel works. So right now you can, with the proof of concept code, just reboot a bunch of iPhones near you, which could be a fun thing to do at a con. Just set one of these up.
Remember a few years ago when there was the Unicode problem, that would cause iPhones and iOS devices to reboot? People were posting it all over Twitter.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was a character string that you could use. It would cause things to fuck up. You could also use it as the name of a wireless device, and it would fuck things up.
Oh, that's clever. Was it like a font parsing vulnerability, or was it just
Unicode parsing? Yeah.
Unicode? Yeah. That's good shit. I like that. All right, and there's a whole real good technical write-up on that from Project Zero, which is not here. Maybe I cut off the L. Yep, there it is. So the guy does like a whole demo. He goes through exactly how he triggers the bug. He gives some code. He gives some nice diagrams. It's a really long technical deep dive about how this vulnerability works. I'm, of course, not going to go through it on the cast because our cast is not 8 hours long. But if you're interested in this, I recommend you look through it and read it, especially if you're interested in exploit development, buffer overflows, or anything about hacking iOS devices. All right. That's the first thing. Next, we got Drupal. Drupal is a CMS similar to WordPress. A lot of people use it. They have issued an emergency fix for a critical bug with known exploits. So,
now, is this for Drupal itself or some plugin?
So, it's a core dependency.
Okay.
Some config files of Drupal are vulnerable. This is kind of similar to what WordPress did last month, where they were like, hey, there's this vulnerability in this very, very popular authentication plugin that like I think 30% of their user base was using, and they just pushed a patch for it. They were like, we don't normally push patches, we make you update your shit, but they did it system-wide, like, push it out because it was bad. So now Drupal has done something similar. They released an immediate patch for this. It's used by about 2.5 of all websites that are using CMSs. It's the fourth most popular CMS after WordPress. So the security update is caused by two bugs in the pair archive tar library. Tar is a compression algorithm similar to RAR. It is essentially it's one of the default ones you're going to see in a Linux box. They have like tar.gz, tar.gz.bz2, whatever. So it's a compression algorithm to compress files, make them smaller, and it's built in to Drupal here. It's got like their own way to decompress files, and their version of that library is affected. Anything between Drupal 7 to Drupal 9 should be updated. If you're using like version 7, go to the latest version, 7.75. If you're using version 8, go to 8.812, like that, all right? So using version 9, 9.09, the very latest of your build. So it's like you can't necessarily always go from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8. You got to go from like your incremental updates. It's a pain in the ass. So there are mitigations available. You can disable the ability for people to upload tar files, which is a temporary mitigation. And of course, the DHS has an infrastructure security agency, CISA, which used to be headed up by Krebs until recently, issued an alert urging admins to upgrade and patch their Drupal versions. Otherwise, they're going to get pwned. That's Drupal. Next, malicious NPM packages caught installing remote access Trojans. So NPM is kind of like a .deb, but for a different kind of Linux. It's a package file. It's like the way you install software on a Linux system. And the people who uploaded these NPM packages to their respective repositories uploaded them with a rat called NJRat. And that does not stand for New Jersey rat, even though there are lots of rats in New Jersey. The security team behind NPM repository for JavaScript libraries removed 2 packages on Monday containing malicious code that installed a remote access Trojan on the computers of developers working on JavaScript projects. The 2 packages, jdb.js and db.json.js, were both created by the same author and described themselves as tools to help developers work with JSON files. Both packages were uploaded to the package repository last week and were downloaded 100 times before the malicious behavior was detected by Sonatype. They make Nexus, which is a repository management piece of software. If you want to like distribute software to a bunch of computers on your network, you can use Nexus. So Sonatype, as a company that manages software like that, caught this particular thing going on. So they informed the package maintainer, and the package maintainer then pulled the files, right? So they also did some clever stuff where, to make sure that the NJRAT download wouldn't have any issues, the patch.exe loader modified the Windows firewall to add a rule to whitelist its command and control server before pinging back its operator and initiating a rat download. That's pretty sketch, all in all. You would think that since it's an NPM piece of software that it would be on a Linux box and not a Windows box. That kind of confuses me. I guess developers are going to be using this as well, even on a Windows box. It's NPM. Yeah, I normally thought it was Linux. I'm not sure why that is. And I will research it and get back to you. No, I won't. Next, we've got the FBI warns of business email compromise scammers using email autoforwards and attacks. So now when the bad guys get your email username and password, because they phished you and you were dumb enough to respond to the phish, and maybe you got sent to a captive portal where you thought you were going to download a file and it looked like it was from your company, so you put your username and password in there, and now the bad guys have your creds, right? Well, now they're using auto-forwarding rules in the attacks. Now, auto-forwarding rules are they have their use. Like, you're going away on vacation, you set it, all your emails are just going to be forwarded to whoever, right? But now, even after the bad guys lose access to your account, maybe you reset your password, right? All your emails are still getting forwarded, a copy of them, to the bad guys, right? And they can then use those emails for social engineering, further phishing, or maybe like hacking into other stuff that you might like a password emailed to you or something. Who knows? Either way, they're taking advantage of this. Now, if they were really clever, they would be using Sense Post Ruler, because this is a real badass tool if you want to exchange. If you want to compromise an exchange server and use rules to do very bad things. So they're just like, all right, they're forwarding emails that they get, right, using rules to do that. And that's cool and all, but if you want to be a real badass, you use Ruler, right? And you interact with the exchange server. So now it will run your rule on the machine of the person who's running Outlook. So the user, you've now logged in as them to the Outlook web portal, and you've set up your rules, right? You then send this user an email, and the email has like a trigger word in it. And when their copy of Outlook locally sees that trigger word, it will run the rule that you set up. And that rule can be, go to a website, pull down this executable file, and run it on this local machine that you're on.
Oh, by the way, I got a word back from Tommy Tenacious on Twitter. He says that NPM is a package manager for the JavaScript programming language. It is the default package manager for the JavaScript runtime environment Node.js. That's from Tommy Tenacious.
I knew it was a package manager. I, for some reason, thought it was like apt. I guess I was wrong. I thought it was like for a different Linux distro. I was wrong. I am not always right, but I am clever sometimes. All right, so moving forward with this ruler thing, like if they were real badasses, they would do something like this: set up a malicious rule. Anytime I get an email with this keyword in it, do this action. This action can be pull down an executable, run the executable on my local machine. That could be like the stager, and then it can pull down some C2 stuff, right? You can do a lot of really bad stuff if you've got access to somebody's email account. Even if you don't have access to the local machine yet, you can then get it through this kind of methodology. If you're interested in pen testing type shit, that's, I like that stuff. All right, so next we've got Reddit card skimmer fills fake PayPal forms with stolen info. I don't know why Reddit is in there, because there's nothing about Reddit in here. Maybe I got
Reddit. You left off the C, dude.
Oh, that makes more sense. That also explains why I didn't spell Reddit right. All right. So, a newly discovered credit card skimmer uses an innovative technique to inject highly convincing PayPal iframes and hijack the checkout process on compromised online stores. The payment card skimmers are JavaScript based, and cybercrimes like MageCart are injecting within the checkout pages of e-commerce sites after hacking them as part of web skimming, also known as e-skimming attacks. As we know, MageCart is a big thing lately, where they're taking advantage of the vulnerabilities in the Magento. It's kind of like a CMS, but for payment stuff, right? So they're taking advantage of the shopping cart functionality, and they're hacking sites, and people put in their credit cards, and these bad guys get your credit cards, and then they use them for other things.
Those bastards.
Yep. Here's an they got some code here from one of the skimmers. That's kind of cool. All right.
By the way, welcome, Barry. If I forget to add you from time to time if I don't look down and see you.
Hey, I'm good.
Hey, Barry. What's up, bro?
Moved into an apartment, and my place is chaos.
Chaos. That's like my thing, man. That's what I'm all about. Chaos.
Well, I mean, it's actually a very good apartment. I just have so much crap.
You gotta find a place for your crap. You ever
Gotta get rid of your crap.
Carlin's routine?
Let's be honest, most of us keep way too much crap. I know I do. If I could get my camera to work right now, I could show you the amount of. Oh hell, yes, there's plenty of crap around here.
Why is everything red? What are you in a bordello?
Oh well, no, that's my side job. No, I have those LED lights. Okay, Google. Lights.
No! God damn! Why do I always forget?
Okay, Google. Living lights off.
You suck. All right. So, Barry,
Yeah.
you ever see George Carlin's routine about stuff and how you're always trying to get more stuff?
I have.
It is like one of his best routines.
Well, I like the line from Fight Club. Tyler Durden says, "The things you own end up owning you," or something to that degree.
That's exactly what Tyler Durden says. But what most people don't realize is Tyler Durden is not a good guy. Like, he's not the actual protagonist.
Oh, that's definitely a movie you need to watch more than once. Because I watched that with my former roommates, and he was going on about how Helen Bonham Carter's character was so crazy. I'm like, watch it a second time. She's not the craziest person in this movie.
Yeah. So I actually read the comic books too, and his son ends up getting Tyler. And then Tyler tries to do a transfer from him to his son and then kill him off. It's a whole big to-do.
Okay, I haven't seen the second one. I listened to the audiobook and made a comic book. I thought, is the comic book based on a second novel, or is it just a comic book?
So the comic book is just a comic book, and it's 10 of them. And you can just go online and find them, because you can do that pretty easily. That's that. Go read them. Put them on your Kindle and then go outside and read them. That's what I did. All right. So back to this story that we were talking about before I got distracted. E-skimming threats are getting worse. Small and medium businesses need to look out for them, especially if they're running their own carts online and not having a third party do it. PCI is still a thing, and you should take it seriously. There are best practices for securing e-commerce platforms, and a lot of users have found ways to protect themselves against MageCart type attacks with browser extensions, specifically designed to block loading JavaScript code on untrusted web pages. So I would recommend something like a NoScript is good, or even uBlock with some extensions, with some changes to what sites you can load stuff from. I don't know. uBlock's probably not the best idea. NoScript is probably your best bet there. Anyway, MageCart attacks, still a thing. Even more clever now. They're doing PayPal fake stuff. Be very wary who you give your credit card info to online. Docker. Docker containers are still constantly getting owned. And now they're under attack by the Xanthi malware. I'm not sure I'm saying that right, but it's a weird name. Xanthi. The never-before-seen Xanthi crypto mining botnet has been targeting misconfigured Docker APIs. There are lots of misconfigured Docker APIs out there. So they are loading up a variant of the XMRig Monero cryptocurrency miner. It's a pretty big botnet. This is what happens. You got an exposed API. Docker runs the downloader, which is just a shell script. And the shell script then pulls down this xanthi.sh. And then, of course, it goes to spread to other things. And while doing that, it also loads up the Java miner, a Docker competition killer, which will, if it finds anybody else on that Docker API using it like a competing group, also infecting stuff on there, they will kill the other group's stuff so that their stuff will not have any limitation to the resources. And also, they'll kill any malware that's on your system. How nice of them. So they can be the only malware. And yeah, they got this thing that does something else. It's a process hider. So you can't see what the hell's going on. Fun times with Docker getting owned all the time. Kubernetes gets owned a lot too. But yeah, that's a whole nother thing. So it's hard to keep a big botnet down. You remember last month we talked about how Microsoft was bragging how they took down TrickBot. Like, we took down 95% of TrickBot overnight. And what they did was they got an injunction from a court, and they got control of the domain name that was used by the command and control server for TrickBot. And they thought that was it. They thought they neutered it. But apparently within the code base, if unable to contact its C2 server for a while, it will just try a different one. And Microsoft didn't have that one. So it's back up. It's spreading again. It's bad again. It's probably not as bad as it used to be, but they got separate campaigns going. They got multiple command and control servers. Yep. So when this first happened, Microsoft actually set legal precedent by getting their command and control server taken down by using the premise that when they built this software for their command and control infrastructure, they used some code from Microsoft. And because they used some code from Microsoft and they didn't follow their EULA, they now should have the C2 server for whatever reason. It's lawyer logic that I don't quite understand, but they managed to get control of it. And they apparently didn't take it down as well as they thought they did. So TrickBot began to spread again. Not long after, Microsoft took most of it down. And it's spreading more and more and more. Yep. It was a kneecapping operation rather than cutting off the Hydra's head. That's a very good way to put it. Yes. Thoughts about that? TrickBot, back from the dead. It's like a zombie botnet now, which is another thing altogether. All right. So Krebs, you remember Krebs? He was in charge. Not that Krebs, the other Krebs. This Krebs, who was in charge of CISA, whatever. He was fired by President Trump because he was talking about election stuff, saying how the election was really secure. Trump disagrees with that because the only way he's going to hang on to the presidency stuff is if the election is found out to have been insecure and people hacked it and there were.
Well, here's the degree. To prove that there's fraud is pretty easy because I'm pretty sure we've seen enough incidents. I can list off some that there's some, well, if not fraud, some improprieties. The big question is it enough to have actually swayed the election, and can they prove it's enough to sway the election?
Right. Well,
the people who are saying there was absolutely nothing suspicious. No. Now, if you say it's not enough to actually have caused the election to be changed, that's a different issue. And both sides are stating it a little bit too deeply. one side is definitely saying all out, it's complete fraud, everything's fake, or it's and the other side is going, there's been no evidence of any kind of impropriety, and neither is exactly correct.
Right. So recently, which is at the bottom here in other section, it was something else going on with him. If I can find it, I know I put it in here.
I know there was also someone who seemed to, and I saw some people doing a stir up of this. There was one of the lawyers for Trump. I can't remember the gentleman's name. Alluded on some, I think it was Newsmax, about Krebs needing to be, what is it, drawn out at dawn and shot.
Yeah, that's this. He should be taken out at dawn and shot for defending the election. Yeah,
the thing is, I have yet to find video of that, so I want to know context. And the one person who was reporting it on Twitter, they've gone a little bit nuts over the last couple of years. They were quote tweeting Keith Olbermann, who's also not necessarily a stable individual. People just need to chill out just a little bit. But yeah, I went looking into the story. Definitely a dumb thing to say, but I also haven't found the actual video so I can see what context it has. Though the context is pretty bad, regardless if those are the exact words he said. At the same time, if I was going to list the story, I would please quote tweet someone other than Keith Olbermann. You will talk about calming things down. This is the same guy who wants to prosecute Trump supporters.
Right.
Keith Olbermann, that is.
Yep. All right. So that's that politic thing. And moving on from that, the dark IRC botnet is targeting a critical Oracle WebLogic vulnerability. The RCE vulnerability in Oracle WebLogic is actively exploited by operators behind the dark IRC botnet. So botnets are a thing. They've been a thing for a long time. Back before we had cool command and control functionality, everyone was just using IRC for command and control because it was there, it was up, it was stable, it was going to be around. It's not like someone's going to knock the IRC servers offline, and even if they do, they were replicated. So if your one server goes down and it's connected to other ones, you could just hop on another one and still talk to your bots, and it was good stuff, right? So they're still around. They're not as popular as they used to be, and this dark IRC botnet is now using the Oracle WebLogic vulnerability that was put out, I think, was that a week or two ago? Yeah. So this one is targeting Oracle WebLogic servers, and it is all right. So back when this article was written, they were talking about how they just have honeypots, seeing if people are trying to exploit it. But now it seems people are actively exploiting it, and it is part of that botnet's way of spreading. So if you are running a vulnerable version of Oracle WebLogic, go and patch it. Hackers using Monero mining malware as a decoy, warns Microsoft. Cryptojacking is giving nation-state hackers a decoy for their more malicious attacks. The company's intelligence team said a group called Bismuth hit government targets in France and Vietnam with relatively conspicuous Monero mining Trojans this summer. Mining the crypto generated side cash for the group, but it distracted the victims from their real campaign, which was credential theft. Cryptojacking allowed them to hide its more nefarious activities behind threats that would otherwise be perceived to be less alarming because they're just commodity malware. So essentially, they are intentionally making, like, they're actively definitely mining, right? They're mining Monero with probably XMR rig, but they're also using those footholds they've got in those networks to steal credentials and do more nefarious stuff. But when people go to investigate it, they're just going to say, oh, look, it's just a miner. So, yeah, they wipe the box and they forget about it and move on. But nobody's going to do a deep investigation into it because, oh, it's just commodity malware, right? It's just, blending in all the other crap that you're going to see on your network. So why bother investigating it, right? So they're hiding their tracks, essentially. They're being very clever. Ivanti announces the double acquisition of two horribly insecure products. So Ivanti decided that because they want to push their zero trust security agenda, whatever the hell that is, right? They're going to buy both Mobile Iron, which, if you remember from 2 weeks ago, maybe even a little bit longer, Mobile Iron puts out a piece of MDM software that was vulnerable, and a lot of their servers got hacked. And in response to that, a lot of the devices that were attached to those servers got malware pushed to them. So it's like not a very secure product. And then we've got Pulse Secure VPN, which has also been in the news lately because it's been hacked several times with insecure crap with their algorithm, and they bought that too. So I don't know why they're buying these insecure things, but they are. They snapped up both these products in an acquisition spree designed to improve the firm's zero trust cloud and managed IT security portfolio. I don't know how well it's going to do for them, considering both the products they just snatched up have been in the news in the last month for having vulnerabilities that allowed hackers to access clients using those products. But whatevs. Maybe that's why they're able to afford them. The price dipped because of that crap. Anyway. Yep. So now they're part of the Avanti family. And yep. Also in the news, Salesforce bought Slack for $27.7 billion. It's a lot of money for a chat program. All right. Yep. I wonder if they're going to make Slack cost money. They should do that, and people will stop using it. All right. Phishing lures employees with a fake back-to-work internal memo. I know this one because I did this one for work. And I'm just going to steal my work PowerPoints because I'm lazy. All right. So here we go. Oh, it's the wrong screen. All right. I'll just do it on here. Got it. All right. Phishing lures employees with fake back-to-work internal memos. So they pretend to be HR. The scammers steal the email credentials from employees by impersonating the organization's HR department. The phishing messages managed to land thousands of individuals' mailboxes, bypassing G Suite security defenses, according to stats provided by researchers at email security company Abnormal Security, who spotted the phishing campaign. So another good way you can get past Microsoft's phishing defenses is to just pay Microsoft for an Exchange server online and then fish from there. And you got about a week before they catch on. And then you, at that point, you moved on to another server. But your fish are all just going to get to their destination because Microsoft does not easily blacklist their own stuff. Anyway, moving forward. So these are some booby-trapped compliance forms from what look like HR. These are phishing emails that are taking advantage of people who are working from home with what looks to be something from HR telling them that they need to go back to the office. They get this form, right? They come with custom HTML attachments with the employee's name, which is a pretty good technique to get somebody to open something because they'll think it's safe because they're stupid. And that's what it looked like. So caller requested a callback. This email was sent from outside. Most people are just going to ignore this line here because they're stupid. But you should, of course, if you're running your own mail server, put a line like this here saying that warning this email is sent from outside. And even though your users are probably going to ignore it, at least you know it's there. So once the attachments are open, the targets are sent to a SharePoint document with details about your remote working policy and an acknowledgement link at the bottom. Clicking that link is going to redirect them to a phishing page that's going to look like an HR compliance notification from their company. And it's going to have their company logo. It's going to look really official. So they go there and they put in their username, they put in their password, and now the bad guys have the username and password. And sometimes they don't even put like the company logo. They just do a very generic HR compliance section, all required employees. So it's like, we need you to the employee, put in your email, and then put in your password to show that you read this, right? Very scammy, but people fall for it. It relies on a sense of urgency, right? So like, you need to say that you read this email right away. Otherwise, HR might be on your ass. So people open it and they click whatever it says and they just do it. It sets a short deadline for when they must acknowledge they've received it. So people then click it. It's a very old social engineering tactic that tends to work pretty well. And this is the article from whence I just lifted all this material from my PowerPoint. And that's that.
By the way, anybody wants these articles, for those who don't know already, those show notes that are linked to in the description of the video.
Right. And if you are only interested in InfoSec stuff, this is the point where you can just go do something else.
But now we're getting the more fun stuff.
We're going to get to the fun stuff now. The general
InfoSec is overrated. We don't need anybody more. If you're considering a career in InfoSec, I'm just dropping out, do something else, florist work or something. Yeah, InfoSec, you don't want it.
Yeah. Says the guy whose claim to fame is recording con talks at InfoSec.
Yeah, that gives me an excuse to drink.
That's true. So they built this giant radio telescope in Puerto Rico, and it's broken, and it fell apart.
This is the same one they used in the film as a filming location for GoldenEye, isn't it? The James Bond film.
Yes.
Yeah, they did, and it was also the cornerstone of the SETI project too. SETI used a lot of radio signals gathered by SETI by Arecibo.
I like SETI. It's a pretty cool model for distributed computing. I don't like the whole we're going to find aliens thing because that's probably not going to happen, but I do like the usage of distributed computing because now we're able to use that same technology to find cures for diseases and stuff with like getting a whole bunch of people to install what essentially is malware on their computers and then, eating up their CPU and RAM and using it to do calculations. Yep. Might as well just get them to mine Bitcoin and then donate that Bitcoin to actual researchers. But yeah, so it's a thing. SETI telescope. This telescope is gone. They're demolishing it now. It's falling apart. It was damaged. They were trying to fix it, and the whole thing it's like this whole middle section is just toppled now.
Well, they were going to demolish it anyways because it's pretty old. It's over 40 years old, I think. So they were going to demolish it, either build a new one or build a new one somewhere else. And yeah, it fell before they could do that.
Exactly. It stunned many scientists who had relied on what was until recently the largest radio telescope in the world. It sounded like a rumble. I knew what it was, who worked for them for 26 years. I was screaming. Personally, I was out of control. I don't have the words to express it. A very deep, terrible feeling. Yep. So it collapsed at 7:56 a.m. on Tuesday. It was a snowball effect. Kept getting worse. Yeah. Anyway, so that's gone. That's no longer a thing. Now, if you don't care about your privacy, here's a cool thing you can do if you want to access your phone without having to pick it up. So Microsoft's got a Your Phone app now where you can, of course, download something from the Microsoft App Store, which means you got to tie your computer to your Microsoft account first to access the App Store and download something from it. But once you do that, you can pull down this app. And with this app, you can give it permission on your to your Android phone, and you connect to it like with a USB cable to your computer, and it's called Your Phone Companion. And then you give it all the permissions for your phone. You give it contacts, you give it companion, manage phone calls, access your media, access everything, and then let's stay connected so that it can refresh that stuff. And then in return for granting all those permissions to your phone, you now can get pop-ups on your Windows box telling you the status of your phone, like when you get a text message and how much battery you've got, and you can see your notifications. You can't actually run the Android apps on your computer through your phone, which would be what I would think this would be for in the first place. No, you still need like an emulator to do that, or maybe just VNC into your phone. But you can, on the other hand, have all these obtrusive pop-up notifications from your phone show up on your computer when you're charging your phone off your computer.
There's software for this already available on Android. It's been available for years now. It's called AirDroid, and I'm sure there's many others that do that.
Right, I know that. But what I'm saying is Microsoft is getting in on this, and they're not doing a very good job.
Like AirDroid's been out since 2012 or so. Like I've used that for a long time to copy files to my phone, and now it can actually check and send text messages. You'll get phone alerts, all kinds of stuff.
Well, not to be outdone, right? Microsoft is now also working on an Android subsystem for Windows 10 because the Linux subsystem for Windows 10 is not enough. You need an Android subsystem for Windows 10 so that you can headlessly run Android files. on a Windows box. That should be fun. Yeah, that's going to be a thing. It's going to be part of the WSL2 Windows subsystem for Linux version 2. They've now got a Wayland display server, which I don't really understand why they would use that over in a regular X display server since it's so much more buggy, but we'll just say, okay, they have a reason for that, right? And you can, of course, you're going to be able to run Android apps on your Windows box if you've got this enabled, which would be neat. But you can already kind of do that with like BlueStacks, right? So, BlueStacks where I can like load up here and now look, it's an Android box on my Google phone. Wait, that's not what I meant to say. So it's just like Android, right? I got an Android box here. I got like 5 things installed on it, but it's had the ability to run any Android app I want on my Windows box. I don't know why I would need to run it bare metal when I could just virtualize it, but it's a thing now. It's like the equivalent of Wine for Linux, but on Windows for... No, that's not even a good comparison. But I mean, you're running it bare metal as opposed to virtualizing it. You're, I guess, you emulating it? It's very confusing nowadays with the way these things are running. But so you're going to be able to run an APK on your Windows box, and it'll just run if you have WSL2 and the Android subsystem installed, which is kind of neat, I guess, but not really needed.
But you mentioned Wine. I haven't tried Wine in like maybe 15 years. Has it got any better?
Depends on what you're using it for. So if it's a graphics intense application that relies on like DirectX, fuck no.
No.
But if you want to run like Office, like a 3-year-old version of Office, yeah.
Actually, when I was getting started, I started to use the ATF has a piece of software, it's 4473s electronically, and I actually ran it through Wine, and it ran just fine. And I was like, "Holy shit!" And because I have Linux on my work computer, because I don't want to use Windows on it, and yeah, I mean, it's like for simple shit, it tends to work pretty good for like gamings and such. There's other software out there that does it better because they've got better versions of DirectX or other things that don't use OpenGL, for example.
Yeah. Also, now the Raspberry Pis are Vulkan 1.0 compliant, which is kind of cool. Yep. Nobody cares. All right. So Elon Musk wanted to call his new tequila Tesla Tequila, but Mexico was like, nah, you can't do that. Just call it Tesla Tequila.
Now, I understand certain regions have certain laws and so forth to what you can market a name with. Like you can't call something bourbon unless it's made in a certain section of the United States. You can't call something champagne unless it's made out of a certain place out of France and so forth. But Tesla Tequila is a different enough name. I wouldn't think they'd be able to pull that kind of shit.
Right. So apparently Tesla Tequila isn't possible because tequila industry regulations say the word tequila is a designation of its origin, meaning the right to use this word belongs only to tequila agribusiness. And it also means that no one can register the word as their property. But for some reason, he can call it Tesla Tequila, which I also don't get why he'd be able to do that. But that's what he can do.
I mean, it's a different name. I don't see why he shouldn't be able to do that.
Right. But they just said the reason he can't call it tequila is because that word tequila, right, belongs only to the tequila agribusiness, whatever that is, right? So the tequila agribusiness can only use the word tequila, which is why you can call it Tesla Tequila, but you can call it Tesla Tequila. That's like, what? Huh?
Mexico owns the rights to tequila exclusively for
How
the
does that-
entire world.
How's that work with trademarks though around the world? Because I've heard of other booze that has some kind of similar rules, but I don't see how one country respects another country's rules on that.
Well, champagne can only be called champagne if it's from the Champagne region of France, right?
Yeah.
So everyone makes sparkling wine. They just call it champagne, and then people are like, you can't do that, but they do it anyway.
Well, it's because technically the French laws have no force of rule here. I know I was looking at cognac or Armagnac have certain rules of how they're made, which it kind of a gentleman's agreement of how they enforce it here or how they obey it here, but it's not really required. There's really no way to enforce it.
Now they do make bourbon outside of Kentucky, so it's an actual ingredient rule for bourbon, but it's also United States only.
Well, the United States has rules on like bourbon and whiskey and things like that. Like for example, if it's aged less than 3 years, something like that, they don't have to put the age on it. Whereas if it's aged like 3 or more years, they have to put the age on the packaging or on the bottle, one of the two. So if you don't see an age on it, it's probably really young and probably really shitty.
Well, the young bourbon or whiskey is White Dog, and I think the rule is it has to be 51% corn to be a bourbon.
That's pretty corny. All right. So next we've got Academy. No, Academy is not the word. Oscar-nominated star from the Umbrella Academy, formerly known as E-Page. No. So anyway, now she's going by Elliot Page, is the whole thing. And they're transgender. And Netflix retroactively went back to all the titles where they are represented and changed their name.
Yeah, I haven't heard about Page since they came out in massive defense and started blaming, I think, various types of people for the Jesse Smollett attack. Believing all of it when the story, even at face value, seemed pretty suspicious. But they were all passionate about it, and that was the last time I heard this person.
Yeah. So they used to be called Ellen Page, right? And I actually just finished a video game where Ellen Page was doing the voice of the main character. Very talented voice actress. I gotta give her that. And I do like her acting. I've seen her in a bunch of stuff. And despite the fact that she likes girls, I think she's pretty cute. So now she's trans. I guess she's always been trans, just hasn't announced it to the world yet. They're queer. They hold themselves close and fully embrace who they are. The more they dream, the more their hearts grow. Yada, yada, yada. There's just a whole statement. We're very glad. Nick Adams is glad. Director of Transgender Media. Ellen Page has given us the fantastic characters on screen. She's a great advocate for LGBTQIAA rights. She is an inspiration to trans and non-binary people. Yep. So they're a boy now. Okay.
And they're back in the news.
Are y'all familiar with the parody account Titanium McGrath? I know you are, Adrian.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Oh, have you seen the latest post from them about that?
No, what's it say?
Oh, hold on, let me find it. Hold on. It's great. It's like.
I'm trying to think of the British comedian who's actually in charge of that account.
Oh shit. Let me see if I can find it.
I don't remember the gentleman's name. The funny thing is, I just had him on my freaking.
Here we go.
There we go.
I am so proud of Elliot Page for transitioning, becoming a beacon of hope for humanity. That said, now that Page is a straight man, he is officially an oppressor, deserves nothing but our contempt. Hashtag cancel Elliot Page.
Great. Yeah, the gentleman behind that account is named Andrew Doyle. He's a pretty funny British comedian.
Yeah.
My phone goes ding, but I don't know where my phone is.
Who's also part of the LGBT community.
Richard enjoyed the show. I'm glad you enjoyed the show, Rich. It's still going on, but.
All right, pizza. And this, by the way, comes out to about $15,000 in United States dollars.
Right. So this is a teenager, right? And they were wrongly accused of not having paid for a takeaway in a pizza store. And were told by a member of staff that the shop was no St. Vincent de Paul giving out free food. Barrister, I guess that's a lawyer or a judge.
That's the equivalent of an attorney.
Tim Sheehan told the judge in civil court that Domino's Pizza in City West Dublin, the teenager had been kept waiting outside for 20 minutes after having insisted on the Gardai.
It's the police.
He eventually left without the food that he paid for. Mr. Sheehan, who appeared in Elizabeth Ferris Solicitors for Patrick Connors, said the practice in the store was that a customer would order and pay for food and then wait until it had been prepared for them. When the young man's food order had arrived at the counter, an assistant asked him, "Can I be paid for this?" Patrick of Gazana, Kingswood Cross, Dublin, said he already paid for it, and I have been told either pay now or be removed. We are not a charity. When he repeated that he had paid for it, the assistant said, "I have never heard anyone speak like you on the map before. I don't understand you." Yep. Anyway, so he sued them because of all this nonsense, and he got money. And money is good. I like money. I have a little. I keep it in a jar above my fridge. I'd like to get more, and that's where you come in. Anyway.
I keep mine in like investments.
John Mulaney. This dude is hilarious. He's in that Netflix cartoon, Big Head or whatever the hell it's called. I don't remember what the show is called, but he's in it. And
Big Mouth.
Big Mouth, yes, thank you.
Oh God, that's just cringe.
I like it. I think it's pretty funny. Anyway, he's a good stand-up comedian. I've watched some of his stuff. I like it. Anyway, in his monologue on SNL, he said some things about the election being an elderly man contest, and long story short, the Secret Service got involved. The FBI or the Secret Service, I forget which, but the government's after him now because
he made jokes at the age of them.
He accidentally threatened the president.
Sorry we didn't add you fast enough, Live Beef. I just noticed you were in the waiting room.
So
no worries.
Yeah, I very much want one to win over the other, and there will be improvements if one wins. I deserve a backlash. I forgot to make the joke good. All right. Regardless, he inadvertently threatened the president, and the Secret Service paid him a visit because of his joke. So that's cool.
Cute.
What do we skip a couple? Because that's G, but we have D, E, and F that we didn't cover, I don't think.
Yeah, we got more. I just wanted to cover that one now.
Okay.
So, LA County Supervisor visited restaurant after voting for outdoor dining ban. This is just some wonderful hypocrisy here. No, you're not talking. I am. So, Los Angeles County Supervisor Sheila Kuehl visited an eatery in Santa Monica, California last week, hours after she then had voted to ban outdoor dining. She went to a place that had outdoor dining after voting to ban outdoor dining. That's great.
Yeah, these outdoor dining places has also been things like they build a tent outside, so it's outdoor dining. Yeah. And there's been a bunch of hypocrisies from like what was her Nancy Pelosi and the hair salon, and there's been some things
about applying the letter of the law, but not the spirit of the law. It's like
not even the letter of the law in some cases.
Well, they're like, people have to eat outside. So they put people outside, but then they put up a giant tent with a bunch of heaters in it and close off all the exits. And it's essentially just inside, but they're technically outside. So they're complying with the ordinance.
Oh, yeah, that part is, complying with the letter.
Right. Like there's a brewery near me, Spider Bite, that I go to, and they have the rules where they can't serve people at the bar unless they order food first, right? So people will order food and then they get their beer and then they just leave the food there and don't eat it. It's like, what the fuck?
That's a good beer.
It is really good. It's custom. Not custom. That's not the right word.
It is.
Microbrew nonsense.
We had like 3 or 4 of those places just in New Albany, Indiana. So I imagine how many they would have someplace, a bigger city.
Yeah. This one's interesting. So this baby is 27 years old, despite being a baby, because their egg was frozen, right? And that means they're 2 years younger than their mom.
But I'd like to see a debate on this particular article between a pro-lifer and a pro-choicer.
Yeah. So look,
I'm actually not 7 years old, depending on which view you take.
yeah.
Well, I mean, it really is. Is a baby really a baby if they're just an egg?
So in this case, they're more than an egg because they're an embryo.
So how old was the egg that it was from the woman?
Well, this time it's beyond an egg. If my understanding is right, it was an already fertilized egg, and it was already on the way to being an embryo.
Oh.
Or was an embryo. I'm not sure what point you truly called something an embryo.
But it was an already fertilized egg. It was not just the egg.
My understanding.
Okay, well that's a bit different then.
It doesn't say anything about whether they were frozen. They were fertilized first or not. I think they were not.
If they're not, then
my understanding is they were.
Yeah. Well, an article doesn't say unless I haven't gotten to that part yet.
But then they say embryo. If it's the point of embryo, it'd have to have been fertilized.
Where's mom and her baby?
Otherwise, it would just be dead.
She was born from an embryo that was frozen in October of 1992, only 18 months after her mother, now 29, was born. It's hard to wrap your head around it, but as far as we're concerned, Molly is our little miracle. Broke the record. Previous record was 24 years on ice before being delivered. So yes, you are right. She was frozen as an embryo, which means I guess that they were. I guess there were some spermies mixed in with the eggies. So, yeah.
So basically, this is a very complicated. This is basically an adoption where you actually have to go through the pregnancy.
Right.
I don't totally understand the appeal of that.
I don't understand the article. I'm not smart enough. It's too many levels of complication for me. Regardless, this chick is 27, despite the fact that she's like 3 weeks old. All right. I wonder how that's going to work with her ID. She get to go to the bar like at 1.
Well, it seems like your birth ID is when you come out.
She's actually not 23. Just the embryo was created 23 years ago or whatever. That's kind of clickbaity is all.
Still pretty clever. So this waitress, right? She's working. She's doing really good. Guy orders some food. Food's taking forever. Eventually, the guy goes, "Hey, you know what? Don't worry about the food. Just bring me the check." She brings him the check. He tips her $2,000 with a Merry Christmas, right? She's excited. She's finally able to get her kids those Christmas presents she wants to get them. Brings, their boss's attention to this. The boss is like, "No, we're not giving you that money. We don't process tips that are larger than 500." So they didn't process the tip at all, and she got nothing. Nada. Got tipped $2,000 and got nothing.
This reminds me of a contest they had at some place of work, and I think it was a restaurant.
Toyota?
For the Toyota, yeah. And they thought it was a car, and actually it was a Toyota, like an action figure, or like a doll of Yoda from Star Wars.
A few months ago, you could have sold a Toyota and gotten a car. So,
well, she sued and won because they were like, the court was like, "No, you're fucking around."
Right. That
is
what happened. And I think that is pretty much our stories. That's it. That's all we got. There was that Trump attorney says that you can shoot Krebs thing, but we already covered that earlier. And that's all she wrote. That's all we got.
And really, who hasn't known a security professional they wanted to? Oh, never mind. I didn't say that.
You can't. The Secret Service will come and they'll bring you with John Mulaney and make you apologize.
I'm pretty sure that's only if you threaten a president, a vice president, or one of the former presidents and vice presidents.
Or one of the members of the Supreme Court.
Oh, the Supreme Court. Oh, I didn't know they ran defense for the Supreme Court also.
Yep.
Surprised it doesn't count members of Congress.
Well, there's too many of them.
So it's just a matter of lack of resources of the Secret Service then.
All right, now we're going to Google, does the Secret Service protect the Congress? The Secret Service is mandated by Congress with 2 distinct critical national security missions, protecting the nation's leaders and safeguarding the financial and critical infrastructure. So who do they protect?
Okay, what
vice
define leader?
the president-elect, the vice president-elect, former presidents, their spouses also get lifetime protection, and a spouse will lose a Secret Service detail if they get remarried, which is interesting. Does the Secret Service protect the Congress? I don't know.
I believe they do. I know that Nancy Pelosi gets a private plane and Secret Service protection.
But she's technically a leader since she's the Speaker of the House.
Right.
There it is. Does the Secret Service protect congressmen?
Wait, I don't know the context of this. I
Protection
have Logic 83. Texas ain't giving you shit. What did we ask from Texas, or who asked something from Texas? I'm a little confused.
Deep in the heart of Texas.
Texas.
So they got the Capitol Hill Police and the Washington Metro Police, but it doesn't say anything. So this was answered, but the president, the vice president, immediate families, former president, children, heads of state, major president and vice presidential candidates, other individuals as designated per executive officer of the president, and national special security events. So I guess no. Nope. The answer is no. They don't protect the Congress. Interesting.
That's okay. Most people don't like Congress anyway.
It's fine. We'll get rid of this.
I remember hearing this, actually, there's some stats thrown out a while back. I don't remember the exact stats, but the approval rating of Congress is incredibly low.
But it's generally people don't like other people's congresspersons.
But
They
that's
like
correct.
their own.
People like to own if they bring home the bacon.
I bring home the bacon, and nobody likes me.
Well, do you live in the Jewish neighborhood?
No, I live in an Indian neighborhood because the food is good.
Well, I mean,
I like some Indian food. Some is too much vegetarian stuff for me. Now, there's something called spicy vindaloo, which it's a chicken dish that's really good.
I like chicken dishes, and
fortunately,
anything that's edible.
Fortunately, I could only pop into the chat just briefly. I have to head out again.
All right. See you later, Liz.
See ya.
Liz,
Try to be on more often in the future.
Ruby.
how come you have a girl's name?
Liz is short for lizard.
Yes, because he always has a lizard avatar, usually. Almost always. Sometimes it's a dragon.
I don't buy it.
It's shorter to say than live beef.
Some people call me LB.
Mm,
Which tab do I have? Here it is.
goodbye, Liz, LB, G.
Sometimes it gets referred to as gecko also.
Where the hell's the tab?
Goodbye, guy who can't find tabs.
He's having a boom.
I have literally over 400 tabs. A new computer just meant
Test
I could open an infinite number of tabs.
I am Chrome.exe.
He's like 80 in lizard years. Actually, some lizards do live a long time, though, don't they? Depending on the lizard.
Yeah.
I think the Komodo dragons live quite a while.
The Tuatara is supposed to be the longest lived.
Okay, how long's that?
It lives a long time.
All right, found the tab. See y'all
Maybe
next time.
100 plus years.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to go, and I'm going to go play my samurai game because I'm almost done beating it.
All right. In that case, everybody, we'll see y'all next Wednesday. Hope you enjoyed the cast, and have a good rest of the week.
Stay out of trouble, people.
Later.